I don't know whether last time I mentioned the Zamenhof's experiments in eggs developing chicks in the...
I don't think so. No.
He noticed that their brains stopped growing before they were ready to hatch, 2 or 3 days, and he saw that the glucose that was in the egg originally was depleted before the whole body of the chick had finished maturing.
Mm-hmm.
And he saw that the brain stopped just at the time that the glucose was depleted, and he knew from studies on mammals in the 1950s and 60s that if you give a pregnant animal either estrogen or insulin, which will lower the supply of glucose, that their brain stops growing as long as the glucose is below a certain limit. So he made a little chip in the eggshell and injected some glucose right at the stage where the brain had stopped growing,
mm-hmm.
and found that that caused the brain to keep growing, and the chicken hatched with a brain bigger than chickens had ever normally had.
Okay. Smart chickens, huh?
Yeah, and that's a general thing that in humans, they see that about at 6 months gestation, the brain has many more cells than it will have at birth.
Mm-hmm.
So during that, from 6 to 9 months, cells are dying rather than being created. And diabetic women are able to, so-called diabetic, are able to deliver more glucose during that time and prevent the death of this huge number of brain cells.
And, how do you feel when they give women who have supposedly gestational diabetes and they want them to restrict their sugars?
Well, I met some women, one who had, I think he was 4 or 5 years old at the time, but her doctor had told her to restrict her sugar when she was pregnant again. And I asked about the development of the older boy, and she said that he had taught himself to read when he was, I think, 2 years old, and that at the age of 4 he was wearing an adult-sized hat and was a very well-behaved and precocious kid. And I had heard many stories like that from old obstetricians who associated it with the so-called diabetes. But that caused me to look up where the idea of gestational diabetes came from, and it was in the 60s they were promoting the idea of a glucose tolerance test to diagnose diabetes very early, and it was out of those situations expanding the definition of diabetes that they started noticing that most pregnant women, healthy pregnant women, tend to have about 130 blood glucose, quite a bit above the non-pregnant normal. And that simply was redefined as something that is off the scale of normal unpregnant people, and so they started thinking of pregnancy in terms of diabetes.
But that's just the body's natural response when you're pregnant, is to raise the sugar so the baby has more sugar? Is that?
Yeah, one of the things that Zamenhof did, besides adding glucose to the eggs, or glycine was another thing. It turns into glucose. He added progesterone and found that also keeps the brain growing, and it helps to stabilize, make more efficient use of glucose, and the glucose and progesterone work together women with low progesterone tend to have unstable low blood sugar and many more problems with all through the pregnancy, mostly related to ups and downs of blood sugar.